I'm Lillian Ward.
I'm McCollough Perry.
I'm Clancy Penny.
And I'm Grace Bowen.
And we would like to present to you
The Brothers Grimm.
How Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm
led the movement to preserve culture.
Their stories created
A legacy of literature.
once upon a time.
Whoa. Hold up. Sorry, Red. Is that really how you start this important performance?
Yes, once upon a time is a very appropriate way to start a performance about the Brothers Grimm. I have to agree. Anytime someone hears those inviting magical words, once upon a time, they know that a wonderful story is about to unfold.
Snow, when you hear the word once upon a time, what do you think of? Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm.
What's all the fuss? We're just trying to confirm that once upon a time is related to
The Brothers Grimm, late 18th century. They were lawyers and librarians. We know and love them for their leadership in preserving the great stories of Europe.
And their legacy is clear.
Cinderella,
Snow White, Rumpelstiltskin,
and Red Riding Hood,
just to name a few.
Our standard in the lives of children worldwide.
And who better to tell their story than us? Once upon a time.
Okay, students, we have a big day today. Get your seats. All right, class is starting. Guess what? When's lunch? You better not sit there, little bit. Today's lesson is about stories. Can anyone tell me the name of the first recorded story? Rapunzel.
The Epic of Gilgamesh.
That's right. Most historians would agree. The Epic of Gilgamesh was the first written work of fiction, around 2600 BC.
Is it a fairy tale?
No, but fairy tales are very old. The Grants told stories in West Africa, the bards in Welsh society, and the Philian Island. Cinderella, your story was told in China before recorded history.
In Egypt, your glasses were made out of red leather, and your coach was made out of breadfruit.
Legends are based on a specific location, but fairy tales can happen anywhere. Peanut for me, the German word for legend, is Sagen.
Sagen.
The German word for fairy tale is Märchen.
Mine.
So, what is lunch? Cinderella, have you prepared a report on the homeland of the Grimm brothers?
Yes, Miss White. I brought a map to understand this time in history. In the early 1800s, the kingdom of Centuria banded together and was called the Holy Roman Empire. As you can see, Germany was made up of 7 separate kingdoms, each ruled by a king or a prince. There was much fighting between the kingdoms. This is the kingdom of Hesse, where the Grimms lived.
Excellent report, Cinderella. Rapunzel, Little Red, do you have a report to share?
Yes, Miss White. Jacob Grimm recognized that languages Sanskrit, Latin, and Greek made similar sounds, but needed to be unified. So he developed Grimm's Law, a foundation of modern-day linguistics. These unified sounds developed the method that the brothers used to unify their stories.
Good report. So the subject of our lesson today is stories and the collection of them. It is the story of 2 lives and 1 legacy.
And it all began in the kingdom of Hesse with 2 brothers.
Practically twins, and how they began collecting the stories of their people.
All right, class, I have exciting news. We're going on a field trip.
Yeah, field trips.
Where are we going?
Into the woods. Just yesterday, I received a circular announcement written by Jacob Grimm, January 1811. Circular letter concerned with collecting folk poetry.
A society has been founded that is intended to save and collect songs and tales.
It is our duty to track the fairy tales down as diligently as possible.
It is extremely important that these items are to be recorded faithfully from the mouth of tellers.
What does it mean?
The brothers wanted new fairy tale characters to be in their upcoming book, Kindred Has Mountain, Children and Household Tales.
How exciting! A new book!
All right, line up. Let's go.
Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to Hesse we go, to tell our story in all its glory. Hi-ho, 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 hi-ho.
Welcome to the first ever
Find That Fairy Tale!
Here at Hesse, the 19th century, we learned some quite funny stories while spinning or doing other repetitive domestic chores. So the Grimm brothers hired my company, Big Bad Productions, to find these stories. Alright, here we go. Our first contestant today is my personal favorite. Put your hands together for Little Red.
Mother sat straight ahead, not to play with Venus sled. I should have needed her advice, but you seem so nice.
Little Red Riding Hood is known for a distinctive red cape and basket of goodies. She goes baking, wandering the woods, and visiting Granny. Red, can you tell our audience
about the early life of the Brothers Grimm?
Yes, Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm were born in 1785 and 1786, just 13 months apart. The brothers went to school in the city of Cassel, and if they had any extra change, they bought books.
Excellent answer, Ben. Now you have just 1 minute to convince us that you should be remembered forever as a fairy tale character.
My story has been told since ancient China, where it was often called the wolf and the kids. As you can see on the scribe I made you, my story has been told in many different parts of the world, particularly Europe. In France, I was called a petit chaperon. The moral of the story is not to talk to strangers, especially if they look like
Me? Don't worry, Lillian. I'm just a talk show host dressed in wolf's clothing. Run along now, Ben, and go straight home. Call when you get there. Kids these days. Next up to tell her story is which will knock off your socks, is the one and only girl with the golden locks, Rapunzel.
Thank you, Wolf. I'm so glad to be out of the tower and sink my feet in solid ground.
Rapunzel lives in the tower and enjoys braiding her hair and singing out of the window to no one.
I had to make the descent because the collection of stories is so important. The brothers went to Marburg, the oldest Protestant university in Europe. There they met Professor Friedrich von Sabinian, and he taught them to be careful researchers and impressed upon them the importance of literary heritage of their own country. German history and ideas were just as important as Greek and Roman ideas.
So, why do you think the story is worthy of inclusion in the upcoming release Kindergarten Mountain?
My story's been told since the 10th century as a Persian tale involving a hair ladder. Then, in the 1600s, by an Italian writer named Bastille, who probably heard it from sailors or merchants. Then, 6 years later, it appeared in France as a tale about a young girl locked away in a tower after she displeased Louis XIV.
She's been here and there, she's the girl with the hair. Thank you, Rapunzel. Next up to plead her case is the classic story of the underdog climbing away to victory, Cinderella.
Thank you. Please excuse me if I'm a little tired. It was a late night.
Cinderella loves birds and is very skilled at feeding. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I originated in Egypt around the 1st century. It was called Rhodopis. Then in China around the 9th century as Yixin. In France, my tale was enhanced by a glass slipper, a pumpkin coach, and a fairy godmother. The political scene when the Grimms lived is very important. In 1806, Napoleon Bonaparte invaded much of Europe, including Germany. The brothers did odd jobs to provide for the family. It was during this time of the oppression that they turned to the German stories they loved.
Thank you, Cinderella. We'll be in touch soon. Oh, hold up. Don't forget this. It might be important later.
Thank you.
Our last contestant today is Snow White. Let's do a quick checklist. Hair is black as ebony, skin is white as snow, and lips as red as blood. Yeah, you heard me, Snow White. I'm glad to be here, Wolf.
My story, once called Little Snow, dates back to the Middle Ages and was first recorded by the Grimms in 1810. They sent it to an acquaintance named Clemento Brentano, who lost it, but they were meticulous and thankfully saved a copy. Saving these stories was so important because industrialization had simplified or even eliminated many domestic chores, and oral tales began to disappear. Their neighbors loved storytelling, and their housekeeper, called Old Marie, is believed to have contributed Little Red Riding Hood, Tom Thumb, and Briar Rose. Other sources were Frobe Kazare, who told stories to her grandchildren, and an old soldier that heard many stories in the military.
Thank you, Snow White. And how are those delicious little dwarfs?
Busy, working, mining, singing, marching. The usual activities.
Thank you for asking. Thank you, contestants. And that brings us to the end of our audition.
But it doesn't bring us to the end of our performance about the Brothers Grimm. In December of 1812, Kindergarten Children and Household Tales was sent forth to households all over Germany.
The brothers would publish 7 editions of Children's Household Tales, each time editing and revising with diligence and discipline.
And so, in the next 100 years, their tales will be translated into more than 160 different languages.
Grimm's fairy tales are the second most published books ever. Number 1 is the Bible. So, why do these stories matter?
And hadn't other people written them down before the Grimm brothers? Yes, but no one verified and re-verified.
And edited and corrected.
In the way they did.
The Grimm brothers dedicated their lives to the preservation of fairy tales.
Perhaps it's because of their love for linguistics, or to preserve national identity for Germany.
Their leadership is in a unique way that they meticulously recorded the stories.
The legacy fills our modern world. You could say we got
Disneyfied.
The 1937 release of Snow White earned $1 million
Children read the stories, tell the stories,
Act out the stories.
And want to be in the stories.
Mirror, mirror on the wall.
The Brothers Grimm conserved it all. They were leaders in method and preserving tradition.
They met each task with tireless conviction. Their legacy is clear and never fails.
They recorded and saved our fairy tales.